Hey there, welcome to my overview of the Victorinox rescue tool. This isn't a review. As you see when I have a look through the tool, it's a very specific design and tool set, and I haven't, and I probably won't for a while, get a chance to use all these in the dynamic environment that they're intended for. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to show you it, just go through the specs, talk a bit about it, and of course go through the tools. So here we are. Comes in this very loud red with yellow nylon sheath with a big belt loop made for duty belts, so for ambulance officers, EMT, fire, and of course police officers, people who wear those thick nylon Maxpedition type or other brand belts that you put pouches on. So that's what it's for. And I suppose it's been made so it's quite easily recognisable. So perhaps you could say to someone, if your hands were full, you could say, get my tool out that red pouch, and they'll look at all your other pouches. You'll have black, maybe dark blue, or even if you have a whole bunch of khaki pouches, or desert tan, you'll be pretty obvious which one they mean. So it's really eye-catching neon yellow, really does catch the light. And that trend continues when you open up the pouch and take out the tool. The pouch is here really well made. It's got Velcro, which I'm not fussed about. Velcro is fine with me. It's quite thick nylon on this front and back part, and then the sides are a bit squishier, which is fine. Yeah, overall very well made. It's got a nice Victorinox sheath. It's very high fit and finish, as you'd expect. Victorinox, it's riveted down, so can't see that coming off. The rivets come through to here, and you can see that they're very well attached. It's the sheath, and here's the tool. So this is one of the 111 mil Victorinoxes, probably a little bit more when you include this little nubble on the end that forms part of the glass breaker. So just for size comparison, this is your standard 91mm Victorinox. So you get about another centimetre of handle, and then another little extra bit of tool there. So this is quite a departure from your standard Swiss Army knives, both in design and appearance. You've got these yellow FRN type handles that glow in the dark, which is really cool, as opposed to the Celador. Generally they start off as high sheen Celador that you get in your usual Victorinox. And then the tool set is very specific to the purpose of the tool. So, a bit of a tool review. We'll start off on the back side. You've got a Phillips. I always prefer the Phillips, even on the more traditional Victorinoxes. I always prefer a Phillips over a corkscrew. And you've got an awl, which isn't a bad choice for a rescue type tool. You might be able to punch or sew with that perhaps. Don't know. Probably just they needed something to put in the space, and I guess it's better than the multi-purpose hook. So that's fine. You've got the toothpick, tweezers. That's the tweezers. That's the toothpick. And on the main side, the guts of the tools. Most obvious being the one-hand opening knife. So on this tool, you get a one-hand opening serrated knife. So it's serrated for the first part of it, and then it's chisel ground plain edge for that last inch. So let's see these blade lengths. So the whole blade is 8 centimeters long, which is about 3.3¼ inches, and you've got a 1 inch, more or less exactly 1 inch straight part, making for the other 2 inches to be serrated. Very fierce serrations, very sharp to touch. You tap your finger into it and you can really feel those little individual points. This is a sort of tool that it's probably, because it's one of those ones you're going to have on you, probably not use a great deal. When you do use it, it's designed to be very high performance for those few uses. So this isn't really a beater knife or anything, something that you'd probably want to be using every day just to cut open boxes, because those serrations aren't going to resharpen very easily. Another prominent tool on the frame there is the glass breaker. This is replaceable. You can pull this out with a pair of pliers and put another one in that you can order from Victorinox for about $10. And I dare say that's because this nub here, although it's not super sharp, let's get in there. although it's not super sharp, it will probably wear down if you ram it into the glass of cars, which is what its intended purpose is. So that works hand in hand with this next tool, which is, it's a saw, but it's not a saw for wood, it's a saw for plastics and glasses. So this will tear through the resinous glass of a front windshield of a car. So I suppose in company with this will be a starting hole, because when you hit a side window with a glass breaker, it shatters the window, but when you hit a front windscreen, it just knocks a hole. And so you'll be knocking a hole in with this part, probably about as big as wide as the base of the spike there, and then you'll be worming this in and sawing in a downward fashion. It's just a pull saw. You'll be sawing downwards and opening up a hole in the front windshield if you needed to. Comes with what I recognise as the flat blade screwdriver, but what they brand on this tool is the crate opener. So again, I'm taking that means it's somewhat of a heavy pry, and it's nice for them to endorse it as a pry, to know that if you were to use this as a pry, it would, because it's intended to, you'd have some case if it was to fail on you. I think we all use the standard flat driver that you get in the other Victorinoxes. I think we've all used these as pries as well, but when you see this one, you see it is a fair bit bigger and beefier, just thicker and everything, just a lot thicker at the top as well. So it's nice to know that you've got Victorinox's endorsement that yes, you can pry with this. And this liner locks as well. There's a right hand liner lock that you can use your right thumb to lock and unlock. The blade also has a lock, and you need to put your finger across it, or if you were left-handed you'd find it very easily. But otherwise you need to put your right thumb across the blade and slowly close the blade up. And the other tool, rescue orientated also, is this very long and very large rescue blade with a sort of a searcher point at the end. So this is blunt here, and the idea of this is you can use this to worm and weave your way up under a pair of pants or up under a seatbelt. This is blunt here on this tip, so that's not going to cut anyone either. You won't start cutting until you intentionally put this surface up against what you're wanting to cut and start pulling. And again, just like the blade of the main knife, this is very, very sharp serrations. And again, you wouldn't want to be using it all the time, but if you save it for the occasion that you really need it, I can't see how it wouldn't serve you extraordinarily well. So that is the tools on the rescue tool. It's not like not like some of the bigger Victorinoxes, the Swiss Champs and things like that, where you get a whole bunch of tools. These are very specifically geared towards rescuing people from car accidents or entrapments or being tangled up or hangings or things like that. All about cutting people out, prying things free, a bit of bash and crash. And I think, as someone who's done a little bit of that in my job, I think this would be a really good tool for it. All the tools are large and full-sized versions, so you don't just get on my Leatherman OHT, you get a serrated knife, but it's probably about only 2/3 or even half the size of this one. So all the tools that are on here are very specific for the purpose. And if you were to just save this, keep it in its pouch on your belt, save this for the time that you need it, use the implements as hard as you can, they'll serve you really well. And you can replace them. So the saw, you can feel the saw when you open it. There's a bit of a point of where it's obviously not sort of sealed into the tool like say the knife would be. So you can grab a pair of pliers and push this out backwards, replace the saw, and the same with the glass breaker. So I'm really happy with my rescue tool. Probably not something that you'd be wanting to get for just an everyday carry, but if you were in any sort of industry where people might get stuck in things, or even if you're just building a really good first aid kit to keep in your car, this is probably one of the better things you can get. A good pair of thick scissors would have been a nice addition to it as well. I imagine they could have put a really good beefy pair of scissors on it, and that would have been alright. But then, because that knife is so safe, you could probably use that for any of your bandage cutting as well. So, there you go. The weight of the tool is 168 grams. So that's about your standard mid-sized multi-tool, about the same as a Leatherman Juice weighs, that ballpark. So back in its sheath, very handy little package, and cost you about $100 Australian, probably about $80 or $70 US, 50-60 pounds or euros. And that's all I've got to say about the Victorinox rescue tool. Thank you.